Hey folks, this is Dave Wood again, and welcome back to core commitment number 2, which is blog daily. In this video, I've got a couple of purposes. First purpose is to show you the formula for how to make a lot of money in your business blogging over a long period of time. All right. The second purpose of this is to teach you why that works so you'll actually do it. Now, before we get into the training in this video, I actually wanted to share my story. A lot of you may have not heard the entire story. I got started in my original business online in 2009 after 7 years of miserably failing in the home business industry. 2009, I was homeless and I was living in a green 1996 Dodge Caravan that was parked on the North Shore of Oahu, Hawaii. I had gotten fired from a job that I just had at Greenpeace, and I literally had no money, I had no resources. All the money I had to borrow, right? And the only computer I had was a $150 laptop that I had bought off of eBay, and I'd borrowed money from my mom to get that laptop. I had a little like $50, webcam on the top of it, and that's literally all I had to do to start my business. So I defaulted to free strategies. I didn't have money to invest in my business as far as advertising goes. I had some money that I borrowed to invest in getting the products that I needed for my education, which is important if you really want to succeed, like we've talked about. But I didn't have anything else. And so I was living in a van, and I stumbled across this article that was written by another guy who used to be homeless, who was making $3,000 or $5,000 a month blogging. Well, I just kind of latched onto this strategy, this blogging strategy that I'm going to share with you in this video. And I'm not just going to tell you to blog, I'm actually going to show you why, and I'm going to show you the strategy and break it down. I latched onto it. Within 90 days, took me 90 days. I had a week where I made more than $25,000 in a week. That was from free, from scratch, with no money, right? With no credibility, doing only one strategy, and that's blogging. There's actually a lot more reasons why you should blog, and I'm going to get into a lot of them here. I don't have time to get into all of them. My main goal is to convince you to actually do it, which of course, one of our core products is a blog, all right? I wanted to show you the formula though. And so I'm gonna break this down in a couple of different steps, but what I'm gonna do is start by, back with the funnel, because we talked about that in the previous videos, and I wanna explain how your business is gonna work. So all internet marketing businesses that are based in information marketing work on a funnel-based concept. And a funnel is really simple, actually. All you do is you generate traffic towards a capture page. You use your capture page to generate leads. After you generate leads, your goal is to generate front-end sales. Your goal from the front-end sales is to generate upsells. Now, if you're building an organization and you're building a team, your goal is to turn these things into people in your organization who then become producers, right? And to turn the producers into leadership in your growth, right? Well, leadership and growth, excuse me. So I'm going to put leadership, right? Now the leadership then will feed the mechanism of more traffic, leads, sales, upsells, producers, and leadership, right? It's a self-feeding mechanism, and we actually talk about that and tell you how to build those in our products. That's what we do. Now there's some problems with normal funnels on the internet, right? Because I'll tell you what most people do here in a second. The problem with most funnels is list burnout, because if all you're doing is generating traffic, sending your leads to a sales video, 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 people just get sick of it and they become immune to your emails. They stop responding to them entirely. There's something that a lot of people call rapport, and I actually like to call responsive rapport, because a lot of people think that they're on the internet to either just sell stuff or to build friends or something, right? Well, the problem with thinking about it like a friendship is not all your friends listen to you. You know what I mean? Not all your friends respond to you. If you go to your friends and you say, hey, do you want to get into a business? Most of the time they're going to say, if I do, not with you, right? I mean, that's just how most people who are close to you, family, friends, tend to respond to you like that for business stuff. What we're looking for is business responsiveness with people. And there's only one way you can create that, and you create that through what I call a value cycle, all right? Now, what I'm going to talk to you about here is, number one, what most people do, so I can differentiate between a value promotion cycle and what's going on out in other places in the marketplace. And so what most people do is this. They generate leads through the traffic that they buy through their capture pages or whatever, and then they just slam them offer after offer after offer after offer after offer after offer, trying to squeeze as much money as they can out of the list. They actually say, how can we squeeze as much money as possible out of the list? Well, I like to think about that list as people. You know, they're like people like you who are watching this video who have real hopes, real dreams, real goals, real outcomes. They want to accomplish things. Maybe they want $1 million ring, or maybe they want a new house, or maybe they just need to pay the bills in the house that they have now. They're real people, right? And I've actually been in rooms of people, and I've never been one of them because I've always cared about my team. I've been in rooms of people where, you know, they were speaking in a room, right? And they were like, how can we squeeze as much money possible out of this room? Well, that kind of has this like slick, oily salesman effect, doesn't it? You can just kind of like feel wrong about that. Well, I do too. And so there's another way of doing things, and that's promoting based off of a value-based cycle. So we're still going to generate traffic, and you generate traffic through any modality you can. We're going to talk about marketing in your business in the next video. This video is again about blogging. We're still going to generate leads as efficiently as we possibly can and follow all those steps of the process that we're going to teach you in our training. And our goal is still to create sales, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to do it a little bit differently. And here's how we're going to do it, all right? We're going to create what I call a trust triangle in your business, all right? A trust triangle. And here's what the trust triangle is based off of. It's based off of value at the top, right? In other words, what your goal is in your business is to solve problems and give value to your list. And by value, specifically what I mean is information, strategies, techniques, stories, right, that will help them accomplish their outcome, not yours, theirs, right, in their business. So in other words, you want to give them things for free that can help them accomplish things in their business, in their life that they want to accomplish in their business, in their life already before meeting you. If you do that, here's what's going to happen. What's going to happen is people are going to develop, right? So we'll put up here value. People are going to develop responsiveness and openness, right? Essentially open the door, you know what I mean? They've essentially opened the door and said, come inside my house, if that makes sense. They're letting you inside their mind and their body. They're letting you inside their advice part of their brain, where they say, I like this guy because he's giving me things that are helping my family. Well, the responsiveness and the openness are going to continually draw these people back to your sales messages, and here's why. I did this by default when I started because I needed a way to generate traffic, and blogging is a great way to generate traffic and leads, which we teach you in our products and we teach you as part of our courses and part of our blogging system. It's a great way to generate leads, and I needed to do it because, once again, it was free, right? However, what I did on accident and what I learned I was doing later was the only way I could get traffic to those blog posts was by giving people so much value, by giving them so many solutions that they just had to keep coming back because there was no value and no solutions like that they were finding from other competitors in the marketplace. So people kept coming back to my site. Well, guess what happened when they kept coming back to my site? They kept clicking on my banners, opting into my forms, literally again and again and again and again. And more importantly, they kept going back to my sales presentations over and over and over and over and over and over and over. You know, we hear a lot in the marketplace about something called direct response marketing, which is something that you do to elicit a direct response, which is clicking on a page, putting in an email, clicking on a buy button in a sales video. Well, what I like to call this is indirect response marketing. In other words, what you're doing is you're kind of going out there and you're saying, here, let me give you something for free that is worth more than all the money that you will ever pay me or could ever pay me. And by the way, it's gratis, right? You can keep it, and you don't have to give me anything. And you're just giving it out there in the marketplace. You're giving your value, right? Well, what that does is it creates an unconscious response in the minds of the people that are on your list where they say, I like this guy, I trust this guy, I want to do business with this guy. So the second you have an offer that appeals to them, they just pull out their credit card and buy it. You know, when I launched Empower Network, I'd been building like this online, like in the cycle I'm about to describe to you, for about almost 3 years. And I had been making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for several years, marketing products that didn't have 100% commissions like you have, right? I've been making money for a long time doing this. Well, I had such trust and such responsiveness with my list. I had a tiny list, guys. I had like about 15,000 people on my list when I launched this company. Well, with 15,000 people on my list, I had 600 people my first month that got in, and they got all in Empower Network. Well, what did that do? That laid the foundation of growth to build the company ultra fast our first 90 days. And had I not had that list and that rapport that I'd created through value by giving value daily on my blog, there's no way I would have been able to create that, right? Does that make sense? So that's the difference between what other people are doing and what we're doing. Now I want to talk to you about another reason why you should blog. And some of you might be saying, what's blogging? Well, blogging is, it's writing an article, right? It's making a video that's teaching people how to, solve problems that they have in their business. It's, putting up a photo and writing a little description of it and making it valuable or entertaining to your readers. It's audios, videos, articles, stuff like that. That's what blogging is. And of course, one of our products is a $25 a month blogging platform. You probably have bought it. If not, you want to buy it and use it, right? And I want you to give value through that mechanism every day. And some people say, well, what are some reasons why I should do that? Well, I'm going to give you a couple, and then I'm going to teach you how, right? Here's one of the main reasons why you should do it. We were talking about accomplishing outcomes. Well, one of the biggest part of accomplishing outcomes is something that we talk all the time about. I talk about all the time in the personal development community. It's called the law of attraction, right? Well, a lot of people think that the law of attraction works by just sitting there and imagining things. It's like if I sit there and I imagine a Ferrari long enough, maybe somebody will drive one up to my driveway, leave it there, and come in my house and give me the keys and walk away along with the deed, right? Like that would possibly happen. Well, the law of attraction, you actually can create a sort of magnetic attraction to the things that you want in life by following a series of steps, right? And really what you want to create is something called alignment, right? And this is how to do it, right? If you want to attract great things, if you want to attract your outcomes into your life, and if you want to have kind of like that magical effect over time, here's how you do it. You want to create alignment between these things. Number one, you want an alignment from your conscious outcomes, the things that you want, right? The things that you want, like we talked about in the other videos. Number two, you want an alignment from your unconscious desires to aim at those outcomes. And those are the things we actually talked about in the last video, right? We talked about your unconscious desires, and hopefully you went through that exercise and found those, right? Number three, and this is a biggie, you want alignment with those things and the words, what you're talking about and what you're communicating. And by words, I don't just mean things that you speak. I'm talking about what you're writing. I'm talking about what you're talking on your friends about on the phone. I'm talking about what you communicate to your spouse, what you communicate to your team, right? If you're always trying to go out there and trying to get rich, but then when you're sitting in bed with your wife at night, you're talking about, God, it sucks being poor like this. Those kind of things, talking about things like that before you go to sleep, keeps the images of poverty in your mind as you're going to sleep. You should be talking about your dreams. You should be talking about your future, things like that. Now, all those things are important, but all those things need to line up with actions, right? In other words, if you're not doing anything, if you're not trying anything, if you're not attempting any actions to accomplish your outcome, it doesn't matter how much you visualize it, because last I checked, there isn't some magical being in the sky that just sits there and drops Ferraris on people, right? Now, I'm not saying God doesn't exist or anything like that. What I'm saying is even God says faith without works is dead, right? So you need to take action in addition to having conscious outcomes, unconscious motivations, and controlling your communication and what you're putting out there as far as energy with words into the world. That's stuff people respond to big time, right? And you need to back that up with actions and work. Well, here's what I like about blogging. Blogging is like an attraction mechanism. When you're generating leads, right, and you're giving them value and you're helping them solve them problems, you're essentially fulfilling all of the parts of the attraction marketing formula that actually work at the same time while you're marketing. It's a system that you can use to gradually build out a vision in your conscious and your unconscious mind and align them together as mechanisms. One of the most powerful things that's ever happened to me is I was forced into this because I didn't have any money. I couldn't go invest in paid advertising. All I could do was buy the products that I needed, right? I didn't have anything. So I had to blog. And I went out there and I started writing about how I was going to live in the beaches of Costa Rica. And I went out there and I started writing about how I was going to sponsor 2 people a day. And I went out there and started making videos about how I'm going to build a big team and I'm going to have thousands of people in auditoriums around the world. I started getting on conference calls and webinars and talking to people about how when they join my team, they're going to be a part of something. It's not just about getting in. It's not just about buying a product. This is about joining me. This is about joining my vision. I started speaking my vision and speaking my vision and speaking my vision and writing about it. And because of that, that mechanism then does something else interesting, which it convinces your own mind, right, that what you want is going to happen. And when you believe what you want is going to happen, you act very differently, very unconsciously, than if you don't believe it, right? But what happens in the process of going through that belief cycle, right? And what is it? Conscious outcomes, unconscious motivations, right? Words and actions. That's the cycle. When you're constantly going through that reinforcement pattern, it will actually create new conscious and unconscious belief systems that will become driving mechanisms for you and literally propel you unconsciously towards your goals. And it will be unbelievable to you the change in the communicator that you'll be a year from now. So how do you do that? How do you blog? Well, what do you write about? Some people are like, well, what do I write about? Well, here's how you can start, and you're going to learn a lot as you go through this stuff. Here's what you do. You follow this formula. Study, do, and teach simultaneously. At the same time. A la vez, as they say in Espanol, right? Study, do, teach simultaneously. In other words, you go and you buy a core product. You listen to the audios. You're listening to the information on team building. You're sitting there and you're going through the core material that we have in Power Network. You learn something. You do what you learn, and at the same time, you teach and communicate it in the form of giving value through blogging. And in the process of giving that value through blogging, it's a reinforcement of what you learned and also moving you through the alignment formula for the law of attraction. Does that make sense? Blogging is the best mechanism that I know about to operate in the law of attraction. If you will blog every day and communicate value to your list, you are literally projecting your dreams and goals onto massive groups of people, holding yourself accountable to accomplishing them, right? And also in the process, you're a student and the teacher at the same time. That's how you become an expert. That makes sense to you? So let me talk to you real quick. I want to tell you a story. Back in 2010, I met a guy, and he was like succeeding. He was my upline in another company that I was involved with. This is before, obviously, we launched Empower. We launched Empower October 2011, right? I had to run into some problems first before I decided to launch this thing because I wanted to help create the richest team in our industry and history, which of course I've done. Now here's what happened. This is going back to 2009. I run into this guy at an event. He was my upline, and he was making a lot of money, but he was doing like home parties, three-way calls, passing out DVDs, like all this stuff, and he was just like super aggressive and worked really hard and had a pretty big team. And he came up to me, he's blown away because I just come into his company. I had recruited 200 people my first month without picking up the phone, and I was living on the beach in Costa Rica doing this. And he could not figure out, for the life of him, how I was doing it. And he had a blog, right? And so I said, well, let me show you this formula. And I sat down with him and I broke down this formula that he could use to build his influence and rapport with unbelievable groups of people through the power of blogging. Because what are we really doing here? When we're building rapport, again, it's not friendship, it's responsiveness. It's speaking and communicating in a way that causes people to engage in a way with you where they want to do business with you. You do that by value. Does that make sense? Right? So I taught him this formula, really simply. I taught him generate traffic to get leads, and here's how you do it, right? And he didn't even have the automatic pages you got, and I said, okay, go out there and focus that into, you got to have a sales message and upsales, and he had that in place already. I said, and here's how you develop that list into an army of people that trust you. I said, learn, do, teach simultaneously. Learn, do, and teach simultaneously. Put value out there every day to your list. Something that will help them solve their problems every day. I said those people on your list will go back to your blog and back to your blog and back to your blog and back to your blog, and they'll keep going to the sales message and keep going to the sales message. Not because you're sending them the sales message, but because they'll keep going back and saying, gosh, I like this guy. Gosh, I want to buy these products. Gosh, I want to do this. Right? So he started doing it. That was 2009. Today he has one of the most trafficked blogs in the world. I'm not going to tell you who this guy is, one of the most trafficked blogs in the world. From his blog alone, he's making over $90,000 a month in his business. Right? By doing this. And he had less information than I gave you in this video. All right? He just did it. There's a difference between people who say they're going to do something and they do them. That's why you need that alignment mechanism. Conscious outcomes, unconscious mechanisms, words, and actions a la base, right? So then we move into this space where it's time to make a commitment on what you're going to do. And I like to think about commitment like this. You know, it's like marriage, you know what I mean? It's like if you're going to kind of like go out with somebody and kind of go on dates and stuff, it's different, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, I'm going on dates and stuff. But when you are over the altar and you say, I do, right? It's a little bit different, right? So what I want to know from you is if you're going to actually commit to taking the actions or if you're just going to have words. Because some people, they might hear that word thing and say, oh, I can talk big. That's not what it's about, folks. It's not about talking big, right? It's about taking action. It's about doing things. Taking action towards your outcomes because you love your family, right? Because you care about your future. Because you're motivated to give them a great life. Because you're motivated to fulfill your purpose and to give value out there in the marketplace. It's about deciding and making commitments to your business. Not that you want to do this, but you're going to do it. You're doing it now. And those of you who make that commitment, okay, you're going to blog every day. Every day. It might only take you an hour, but little things aren't little things when you do them every day over a long period of time. Little things become big things. Never forget a quote I heard from John Maxwell. He's one of the most foremost experts in the world on leadership. We're going to talk about reading later, how important that is too. John Maxwell, I had his same massage therapist that goes and gives him massages when he's doing events in Austin, Texas, and she came and was giving me back massages in the morning, right? We get massage therapists and stuff out there for the leaders and stuff. She came out and gave me a massage, and she started talking about John Maxwell. I was like, I used to hear that guy speak at these big conventions I used to go to. And she said, really? Yeah, he's like a friend of mine. I said, let me ask you something. Have you talked to him about how he's gotten his results? She says, I've listened to him a lot. And I said, what's the most impactful thing he's told you? And here's what he said. He said, when I was 18, I might be butchering if John Maxwell ever sees this, that might be slightly different from the actual story, it was something like this. When I was 18, I made a commitment that every day, I was going to read for an hour, I was going to write for an hour, and I was going to think for an hour every day when I was 18. He said, I made that decision to do that because I thought I could develop myself over a long period of time, not because I thought it would change me in it. He said, I started doing it when I was 18. 19 years old, it wasn't that much of a difference between me and the people around me, but a little bit. 20 years old, a little bit more of a difference, not a massive difference. He said, but I kept doing it. He said, but 25 years old, there started to be a gap between what I knew and what I could do and all the people around me. He said by 30 years old, the gap was huge. By the time I was 40, what I could do and accomplish was so disconnected from where I grew up and who I knew. It was completely unrelatable at all, like I had been born from like a magical world. Right? Some people look at me and they're like, well, how you do these things? You learn, you do, you teach. Simultaneously, you'll learn 100 times faster than anybody around you. And how do you do that? You blog daily. Right? Rome was built daily, not in a day. That's a commitment. So here, real quick, I want you to imagine something in your mind where you were actually committed. Maybe it was getting married, maybe it was you joined a church, maybe it was you decided to go to college. And how you worked when you did that thing was different than how you've worked towards other things in your life. Like for me, right, that happened to me in 2009 with this industry, where I decided, I'm going to do it, that's it, period. And I just crushed through normal, right? I want you to take that energy and say out loud, I commit to blog daily because my life is going to be built daily, not in a day. Got it? See you in the next video.
Folks, Obviously, the income examples discussed in this video are extraordinary. The income claims presented are not intended to serve as a guarantee of income. Instead, they're designed to give you an idea of what's possible. Success in this business requires leadership, hard work, and dedication. Since we want to help you make an informed decision, we've gone above and beyond with our income disclosure document. If you want to see the average earnings, please visit the page at www.empowernetwork.com/income.php.